Now ask the witnesses if you would stand, be sworn in, please, and raise your right hands. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give before this committee is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record, thank you, we may be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses all responded in the affirmative. And now, for the beginning testimony, I'd like to recognize Mayor Peterson. Mayor Peterson, for your initial 5 minutes. Is your microphone on?
Good morning, esteemed members of the committee and staff. My name is Erik Peterson. I'm the Mayor Pro Tem of the great city of Huntington Beach, California. I'm here today to attempt to shine a light on the ever-increasing difficulties our city and many other jurisdictions have with addiction recovery housing, sometimes referred to as sober living homes. I'd like to start my testimony by reading a statement from a testimony you should have received from a California-based organization called Advocates for Responsible Treatment. Addiction recovery housing takes many forms, one of which is businesses that provide commercial services to short-term transient occupants in permanent residential neighborhoods, where such uses are often prohibited by zonings. A myriad of overlapping federal and state law and case law unintentionally grants excessive privileges to these businesses. Essentially, businesses obtain rights superior to those of other households in the same neighborhoods. Local limits on operations of such businesses are interpreted by the court and the state to be discriminatory, regardless of whether the operations exceed reasonable accommodation or grant more than equal rights of neighboring homeowners. By granting these privileges to operate without distinction or restriction, the courts have failed to note that the houses do not even meet the spirit of ADA, which is to deinstitutionalize the disabled and integrate the protected class into the community. In just the last 2 years, recovery houses have been identified as a concern in municipalities in over 100 congressional districts. Citizens executing their right of free speech on the issue have been sued by businesses in an attempt to freeze public dialogue. Many municipalities have lost millions fighting lawsuits claiming housing discrimination to which no disabled individual is party. Unnecessary litigation drives investigations by the Department of Justice, Housing, and Urban Development. To meet the requests of members of Congress for clarification in 2016, the DOJ and HUD produced a 20-page document which reinstated the issue but gave no clear guidance. Congressman Roybacher's H.R. 5724, Restoring Community Oversight of Sober Living Homes Act of 2018, is the second bill in 2 years attempting to clarify local control to come to the Judiciary Committee. The first was proposed by Congressman Issa in September of 2016. We're grateful for the Judiciary Committee moving forward to review this legislation because this issue will not go away until it is finally addressed by Congress. Ignoring the issue results in disaster effects on long-term residential neighborhoods and fuels an increase of abuse of the protected class. Better local and state regulations of recovery housing is very much a matter of life and death. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was asked to testify in front of this community, I reached out to my constituents and asked them to submit their stories. I believe you have received many of them. What got me were the stories of the parents of the victims of some of these facilities. In our city, we have houses with multiple overdoses and deaths, and all we can do is send our firefighters in to pick up the pieces. A few Sundays ago, someone forwarded me a program from a funeral they were attending of a 21-year-old lady who died in a recovery home. She was dead for 12 hours before it was reported to the authorities. The opioid crisis in our country is destroying the basis of our society, which is our families and communities. In an attempt to help or be compassionate, we have further placed the burden on our communities and left thousands of people who need help at risk. The city of Huntington Beach has found that many of our homeless have come from these facilities. Through what is referred to as body brokering, addicts are recruited from around the country and sent to places like Southern California, Florida, and Arizona. After the individual is placed in a home, many recovery companies sign them up for as much public assistance and insurance as possible and offer bed vouchers for local resident homes. When the money runs out, they curb them. In other words, they kick them to the street, and many have not even received proper recovery. Over the last year, our city has had to help 65 people get home that we're stuck. I thank you again for reviewing this legislation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Peterson. Appreciate your testimony. The chair now recognizes Mr. Lashman. Turn to Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Peterson, and you've talked about the community and how the community is developing. Are you comfortable then that if Congress enables it so that local government can regulate city, county, state, what levels would that be? How would that emerge in California in your vision?
Well, our biggest thing is the bad actors hiding under a good program. So we can't get out there and inspect, and if we had the ability to get into it, just know where they are. Most of the time we know when the police are called or the fire. But if we had that ability to regulate them, I mean, even foster care is regulated. You can't have so many foster care in a certain neighborhood, but these people can buy 3 houses in a row and fill them. So having our ability to get out there, we don't have to have code enforcement peeking through windows. We don't have to be, late to the party with the police coming or the fire coming, but we can be a little proactive and make sure that, one, the facility's doing what they're supposed to do.
But just from all interpret this in that you would have in California likely a layer of regulations if we went to Mr. Rohrabacher's bill that would have some state regulations, some county and some city regulations working in some type of coordination?
Correct.
That's how I envision
Yeah,
it.
and I'm sure we'd be working with the county because they're basically in charge of health and human services, not the municipality. So work out something where that's distributed more around the county, any type of.